All right, you know the music. That means it's 9 o'clock and it's time for the live zone prime time. I'm producer Chris. That's Tony P. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching on Fox Local or you're watching on Fox 5 DC's YouTube page. You know this show all about you. You can weigh in, scan that QR code, talk to us, talk about what we're talking about. Tony P, happy Tuesday. How's it going? It's been a busy day for you. You've been here all day. The Take It Two. You did Do You Like It or Not? You did Like It or Not, and now here you are for the live zone prime time.
I love these days because you know what? They go by really quickly, and I'm in the action. And just my blood pressure stays right at the about, I would say, a medium-high level, which I always like, number one. And I got to tell you, this show is about you. It's not about me for sure. I'll tell you that much. But
you say that, but you're the star of this show, in my opinion.
I mean, listen. What's those stars that are kind of like the old stars at the end there?
Scoot your chair
what do they
this
call
way
those?
A little bit. I need to see a little more of you.
Like I'm kind of like Pluto a little bit, one of those stars.
A dwarf star.
Thank you. That's what I have.
You hear the music playing right now?
I do. Is that Oasis?
Are you? No, it's not. Are you familiar with it?
Yes. It reminds me of like the what's the Robinsons movie, the animated movie, when they at the end of this movie there, 2007.
I don't know, but.
Okay.
I am playing this song, which is called Chasing Cars by the band Snow Patrol, because we are starting off the 9 o'clock tonight on Snow Patrol. We are keeping an eye on a potential major winter storm taking aim at the DMV. And Tony P, as a man from Boston, you know the DMV handles its snow oh so well.
Oh so awfully, I'll tell you, my friend.
So awfully.
During, is that even a phrase, but I'll go with it. So last year when they had, I think it was 3 snow events, I love when they call it an event. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's a snowstorm. It's a nor'easter, go for it. And the issue with this is that they had 3 little ones at like 4, 6, and 8 inches, and they were locked down for a week. We're going to get, what, about between 12 and sometimes 14, 15 inches?
Well, that's what it's,
you see. The good Lord, or the good Lord, as my grandmother used to tell me, the good Lord help us, please, because this is going to the ugly, and I don't know what's going on in this region.
It has the potential. It's been an active,
cold, this polar vortex. It's like the weather's like angry at us. Like there's cold, and then there's being just cold for the sake of being miserable. Yeah. I think Mother Nature, something going on up there.
You see this is the European model that we had Mike Thomas put up for us. You see that white, that pink, that green working its way in from the west over the course of the weekend, basically late Saturday night through Sunday, even part of Monday, looking like our region will be impacted by that significant winter storm. Of course, it is still early, a little too early to really say for sure. However, when we talk significant, we're talking snow totals, like you said, Tony P, somewhere in the range of anywhere from 7 to 15 inches. Timing-wise, like I said, impact our area late Saturday night through the day on Sunday, even lingering into Monday. And you know, if that is the case, that would mean major travel disruptions. Earlier today, our team here at Fox 5 caught up with crews across the region already preparing for whatever Mother Nature has in store. Take a listen.
So we have a playbook we can go to, but right now we're in the process of just continuing to monitor. We often start we're all stocked up and ready to go. You know, all of our equipment's being worked on that maybe it needs some TLC. But we're going to have a call as soon as those models start to all come into an agreement, and we get a timing map and everything else that comes with that, and we can start to make deployment decisions.
So that's the team from MDOT talking about how they're going to get ready. Mike Thomas will have another check on the forecast at the top of the hour on Fox 5 News at 10, right here on Fox Local. And, of course, you can always get the forecast anytime, weather on the go, on the Fox Local app, which is hopefully where you are watching us.
I'm crying just looking at that now. And also, those offices at the MDOT, they look as depressing as the storm's going to be. I got to be honest with you. I wouldn't,
Tony P, again, as the guy from Boston, aren't you psyched for the potential for some snow?
The only reason why I'm not completely depressed is because I live in an apartment and I don't have to take care of any of this stuff, okay? But when you look at, when I moved here over 3 years ago, it was hot summers, yes, that's what I bargained for. But for about 2-3 years, the winters were somewhat moderate. It was sometimes in the 40s, maybe high 30s. It was the worst was like the low 30s with a minor wind chill. Now it's, this whole last year has been 18, 19 degrees with a wind chill of -2, okay? Mm-hmm. This is not what I bargained for. We are south of Boston. I'm not supposed to get weather that reminds me of home. I don't want to be reminded of home. If I wanted to do that, I would go on a plane and go back to Haverhill, Mass, like I was at the holidays.
When
and
you
throw the
did a
snow
little
around.
weather forecast
Okay?
for us and a little snowman. Hey,
I'm proud of
Melissa is one of our loyal Zoom room
Yes,
guests.
she is.
She's from New York originally, but she's been here in the DMV for like 30 years. Melissa, do you like the idea of snow? Like, do you like snow days here in the DMV? And does it make a difference if it happens on a weekend?
Listen, being born and raised in New York, we had snowmageddons in the 1980s, and we still had to go to school. Nothing was like that. Supermarkets were open. Everything was open. You still had to go to work. The snowmageddon we got here in 2010. I don't know if you remember that. I had to go to work. Essential employee. But no, they over-exaggerate. You know, you're supposed to have things already put away in case of an emergency, something that would last you anywhere between 3 to 6 days, depending on the size of your family. But, you know, they go overboard. A little flurry falls down, and I'm over here tagging Tucker Barnes where I'm at just to show him this is what you signed up for. They go overboard. I'm sorry. Just learn how to drive. Stay home if you don't have to. If you need to go out, be safe. And stop overthinking it.
The only good thing about these type of events, and maybe you correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, so like, you know, New Yorkers, New Englanders, we share that, I would say, suffering of going through this winter weather. What do you think is the best memory of a snow day staying in? I love the nice crackling fire if you have one, or being near the heater, whatever that is. Are there certain memories that make it at least bearable from your experience? Because I have a few, but it's getting smaller and smaller.
Yes. So I grew up in the projects. I didn't have the luxury of having a home or a fireplace. The best thing that you can do is open the window and hope that there was enough snow for you to make a snowball to throw out the window and actually do stuff.
That's an incredible memory.
Back then, WWF was the best thing. Saturday morning cartoons, HBO, watching movies on HBO, and doing that popcorn on top of the stove. Where you burn. Those were my fondest memories. Other than that, I mean, we used to dress down. It was affordable to get dressed down in ski outfits, not like now where everything is costly. But before, you could get a pair of snow boots and snow coat and go outside and look like a daggone Eskimo, and we were ready to have a snowball fight between the projects.
So my mother was also grew up in the projects, Lawrence, Massachusetts, way back in the 70s and 80s, and her boyfriend lived in the projects, I think it was across the city. So he used to tell us stories, and they're dating now, because it's kind of a great circular thing in life. So he tells the story about he would like crawl on the, not crawl, but walk through the highways in these like plumes of snow just to get to my mother, and they would make snow angels together, and they would go like sneak off in a different, you know, snow areas together, and I'll make the snowmen like Frosty and all that. Like, those are the memories. Nowadays, these kids are doing online learning, and they don't have that camaraderie that I think your generation, my mother's generation, and also I think a part of mine had with actual snow days, because now it's remote learning. Maybe you get a couple on your own, but it is truly a different era now.
I agree with you. I was a girls' guy, so I can hang out with a bunch of dudes, but there was always one that I had a crush on, but you know, because I was a tomboy, you wasn't gonna know that.
Gotcha.
But as long as I could hide and I could build that good snowball and hit you right in the face, you know, that was my sign that I liked you.
Oh my God.
Melissa, thank you once again for joining us and weighing in on the weather. And as always, we will keep an eye on it. Mike Thomas, like I said, will have an update coming up at the top of the hour. In the meantime, you know, if it's live and if it's happening now, we're going to take you there. And right now, we're going to take you to a live shot. I believe this is Switzerland, Tony P., and that is Air Force One on the tarmac in Switzerland. President Trump on his way there for that Davos summit.
Yeah.
And you're going to talk about this a little later in your in your what's it called? In what you're watching, the rundown.
We still have to come up with a name for that that's catchy. So I'm just going to call it the rundown.
We just call it what Tony's watching. But obviously, the headline dominating this international summit, his first one of 2026, is the tough talk about Greenland.
Oh, yeah, and I'll tell you, he gave an hour and 42-minute news conference today to mark, I think it's 1 year since he took the oath of office for his second term. Trump 2.0 is 1 year old. And he talked about a lot of things. One of them was the Greenland situation. We'll get more to that in my rundown, but a quote that really stuck out to me. was when they asked him, hey, how far are you going to go on this Greenland issue? He said, quote unquote, we'll see. So this is going to be a very, I would say tension-filled, and you may be cringing in your seats throughout this week in Davos because there's a lot of controversy going on. The president's being hailed by some back home for his stance on Greenland. Overseas, though, he is being absolutely critiqued and called out by members of the media over there, by business leaders, as well as foreign leaders such as Emmanuel Macron today, who called the tariffs associated with the Greenland situation unacceptable in the way he's going about this. He's been, President Trump's been posting things from Emmanuel Macron, text messages from him and the president of Norway, and there's a lot of controversy here, and I think you could either see a détente or it could be an incredible combustion at this Davos meeting.
So this summit, this is actually probably Joint Base Andrews, and he will be on his way
because he gave
to
his speech
Switzerland, flying over. Right. He's flying overnight our time, so we're expecting him to arrive here at some point en route to that summit. So we're going to keep a look. We're going to keep a live look at this picture up in the meantime, but. Tony P, let's bring it back home for a little bit, because the other big story back here at home is that deadly desire. This is a trial we have been watching closely. Today was day 5 of the Brendan Banfield murder trial. That's happening in, just keeping an eye on that live picture. I'll have that for you in a second. Day 5 of the Brendan Banfield murder trial in Fairfax County. We've been watching it very closely. It ended with the prosecution today resting its case and the judge denying a defense motion to dismiss all of the charges. Fox 5's Bob Barnard, he was there. He has the latest from outside the courthouse. Take a look.
It took a while through some tedious testimony, but the prosecution, in wrapping up its case today, got to the heart of the matter. That bloody knife found at the murder scene, the weapon used to kill Christine Banfield. On the witness stand, a blood spatter pattern expert and analyst named Iris Daly Graff asked by prosecutor Jenna Sands why the bloody knife found at the foot of Christine and Brendan Banfield's bed was not tested for DNA.
Because in the body cam video, there were multiple places that showed where the knife was altered, if you will, by officers in the scene.
The defense says Brendan Banfield was indeed found at the crime scene with bloody hands, but for good reason.
You've seen his hands with blood on the front side and blood on the back side, correct?
Yes, his hands, both hands were blood covered.
Okay, and that would be consistent with someone who's rendering aid before first responders come, isn't that right?
It's consistent with him having blood on his hands.
Late today, the prosecution's final witness, Christine Banfield's father, Gary Benson, took the witness stand.
Yes, they were married.
He says Christine had some medical issues with bleeding and bruising, but that was all he testified to.
I'm moving to strike all of those charges. What we have up to this point in terms of evidence, Judge, we haven't heard a single word from a single detective that was involved in the homicide division.
After the prosecution rested, defense attorney John Carroll asked for all the charges against Banfield be dismissed.
The only person that has even suggested anything, and this is probably the third or fourth time that story has changed, is Juliana Perez Magalhaes.
Prosecutor Jenna Sands responded that their case is solid.
In the light most favorable to the Commonwealth, the evidence has been presented that Mr. Banfield shot and killed Joseph Ryan, that he stabbed his wife Christine, that all of that was done while his 4-year-old child was left in the basement.
Judge Penny Azkarate denied that motion to dismiss. The defense begins its case tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. sharp.
That was Bob Barnard outside at the courthouse today. Of course, you can follow along all of our coverage on Fox Local, Fox 5 DC's YouTube page, and of course, Fox 5's TikTok. The defense begins its case tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bob Barnard will be back out there live, and then we'll have a recap right here on Fox 5 DC's YouTube page when testimony ends for the day.
I mean, this case, Chris, is very similar to, I think, the spectacle of the Karen Reed case up in Massachusetts, where I'm from. That overtook the entire region and the nation. This is looking like that type of case as well. It has this sort of, this love triangle component that people who like true crime and things of that nature usually attract to. And again, these are real people that actually were harmed and murdered here, so we don't forget that. But I think what's interesting about this case is the love triangle component, of course, but this blood evidence, the fact that there wasn't testing for DNA, where we've known since the O.J. Simpson trial and others that the blood DNA can almost connect right to a suspect or X out a suspect, depending on who it is. So, again, there's a lot of components to this case that the defense will bring out, but I'm interested to see how they go after the blood evidence and evidence collection, things of that nature. Usually in cases such as this, based on, I did some research on the cases of O.J. Simpson and others, where attorneys like Barry Scheck, who's a DNA expert, he went after the processing and collection of evidence and the chain of custody and command for how the evidence was collected to get some of it, to put some doubt on it, right? The question will be, is this collection process where there wasn't DNA taken, where the blood spatter is kind of inconclusive according to this expert today? They couldn't say whether they were rendering aid or it was in the act of doing the murder. The question will be, was the collection of the evidence a hindrance here, depending on how this case goes? Because that is how a lot of defense teams throw out the blood evidence that could be very incriminating, is they go after the process and they go after what inconclusive items they can find from it. It's going to be a fascinating way to close this trial out.
Yeah, and we to that point, we heard today that Brendan Banfield had asked to wash his hands at one point, and police officers had no reason to think that that would be an issue. So,
I mean, again, now that you can look at that as, well, he's trying to, hide something, or it's just, hey, I have nothing to hide, so hey,
exactly.
Whatever, because again, that's the circumstantial evidence. That's a big thing the jury's gonna have to consider, Chris. Is the evidence circumstantial, and it's all about beyond a reasonable doubt. And nobody can tell me what that means. Any
Clearly,
lawyer
the
can't tell
defense
me.
asking for that case to be dismissed does not think that the prosecution has reached that.
The threshold.
They've reached that threshold.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to leave you with this live picture of the president getting ready to depart for Switzerland. We're standing by for the president to arrive at Joint Base Andrews for that overnight trip to Switzerland. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to get to Tony's rundown and find out what else he's been watching today, this Tuesday, January 20th. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime on this Tuesday night. Tony P practicing his air drumming every time we play that little open animation and music. The rugby throw.
Yeah.
I've never played rugby. It is not one of those sports that has ever really appealed. I mean, yeah, you got to be tough to play it too.
You do. I mean, my father played in college, and he said it was harder than football.
Yeah,
Because you had
that
no helmet
doesn't
on.
shock me one bit. All right. It is now just about 9:20. That means we've waited long enough for Tony's
Yes.
rundown. Let's find out what he's been watching.
Speaking of tough and hard to listen to, you have my rundown for you folks. We begin at the White House, where President Trump marked the one-year point of his second term with a marathon, and I mean marathon press conference. Literally nearly an hour and 45 minutes, using it as both a recap and message to supporters. The New York Post reports Trump touted what he called major accomplishments on immigration, the economy, and national security, and at one point he added a line that immediately grabbed attention around the country, saying he thinks God is very proud of what his administration has done so far. The press conference is also drawing criticism over its tone and messaging. Newsweek points to moments that they say undercut the administration's image management, including Trump's suggestion that part of the issue is simply bad public relations, seemingly taking a shot at his press team, essentially arguing accomplishments are there, but the message is not breaking through. We've seen some of that in previous years with President Biden, his team as well, not being able to sell the message. Now on to Minnesota, where tensions over immigration enforcement continue to intensify in the aftermath of the shooting of Renee Nicole Good. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara is publicly questioning the conduct of ICE agents after recent confrontations in the Twin Cities. Yahoo reports O'Hara raised concerns about tactics used during operations and said the current approach is inflaming community tensions and creating situations that can quickly turn dangerous for civilians and law enforcement doing their actions. And those concerns are spreading beyond Minneapolis. Fox News reports tonight that many Minnesota police chiefs said that they have encountered cases where some ICE agents allegedly racially profiled U.S. citizens during operations, including claims involving off-duty officers being stopped or questioned. Local law enforcement leaders say they want clearer standards of how federal agents are identifying suspects and interacting with the public during these sweeps. And one of the major flashpoints was the arrest of U.S. citizen Chong Lee Scott Thao, who said ICE agents entered his home without a warrant, detained him at gunpoint, and let him outside in freezing weather while he was not fully dressed. Now overseas, another flashpoint involving President Trump and his relationship with Europe. The BBC reports tonight renewed pressure on Denmark and Greenland is raising alarm, with President Trump again framing Greenland as a national security priority and hinting that tariffs and military posture will be used as leverage. European officials have pushed back forcefully, emphasizing Greenland is not for sale at all, and Greenlanders will determine their destiny. This will be a major issue at Davos, like we said. And that concern spilled into the markets today. The New York Times reported that stocks slid about 2% after President Trump's comments and tariff threats tied to Greenland and Europe, reviving investor worries about broader trade shocks. Now to the media world, where the streaming wars continue to be heating up and the major consolidation may be taking a breaking point. CNN reports Netflix has revised its offer for Warner Brothers Discovery into an all-cash bid valued at around $87.7 billion. The move is designed to streamline the deal process, appeal to shareholders, and outmaneuver Paramount's bid from last month. It also signals how aggressively Netflix is pushing to control the premium content that Warner Brothers offers. Also in major workplace headlines tonight and business, Fox is reporting that Bank of America is awarding about $1 billion in stock to nearly all employees through its Sharing Success program. The bank says the grants cover roughly 96% of workers and are meant to reinforce long-term employee ownership and retention as part of a broader compensation strategy. That is actually a bill right now, Chris, that's being considered in the House of Representatives to expand tax laws to incentivize companies to do just this. Also in entertainment, the Beckham family drama continues, that we talked about last night, to play out in the public. Extra reports David Beckham is speaking out after Brooklyn Beckham's recent posts and comments, with David signaling patience and perspective, saying children are allowed to make mistakes as they grow. It's one of the clearest comments from his side since the feud became a headline. Also tonight, in the world of talk show media and talk shows, I am devastated by this, Chris. The Kelly Clarkson show is expected to end after this season. There's been no official final word from the show itself, but there are reports saying that host Kelly Clarkson wants to move on from the show, even though the show is gaining a ton of popularity, not just in linear media, but on YouTube and in the social media comments. You should have seen the comments yesterday. Everybody was upset about this, but again, there has not been any confirmation yet. The team says if you hear confirmation, it'll be right directly from us, but industry insiders are saying this is the last season because her contract is up. And finally tonight, a good news story for writers and creators around the world. Good News Network is reporting that Public Domain Day today has expanded the list of works free to use in the U.S., including material connected to Franz Kafka, Nancy Drew, and Charlie Parker, which now opens the door for adaptations and new creative projects without any licensing fees or arrangements. So, for creators like myself, Maybe it's time to do some Nancy Drew true crime episodes or series content. Who knows, Chris? But this is expanding. They had Mickey Mouse a couple years ago. The original Mickey Mouse that came out in the 1910s or 20s was released
John
to the public.
Oliver has had a field day with that.
I know he has. I'm shocked that he has. And now we're at this place where we have some incredible stories from the past that are going to be out for the public.
Yeah, well.
I want to see what happens out of that.
Tony P. Also now a new opening on the talk show, the daytime talk show market. So
yeah, sure.
I know that's been one of your dreams. So.
You know, it is. And you know what's interesting about this, though? Whether it be our two great syndicated shows here on the Fox Network with Sherry or with Jennifer Hudson, the Kelly Clarkson show, Drew Barrymore, there's a lot of viral moments on these shows. There's the dancing portal that they have on J-Hub. Sherry Shepherd's interviews are great. Spirit Tunnel,
which,
sorry, thank you.
Again, I'm going to go on the record and just remind everybody.
What do you got?
That was a Fox 5 thing.
It was?
Go back and watch Kenneth Moten's
intro
to the show. Go back and watch Stephen Graddick's intro to the show.
Okay.
Go back and watch
before
so many intros to this show, walking out of the green room, down our hallway, making their entrance into the studio. So, I mean, look, a lot of people can have the same great idea, okay?
Yes.
I'm not accusing anybody of anything.
But was there some spying?
Long-time Fox 5 fans will remember that you may have seen something very similar to that right here on Good Day DC at 10 a.m.,
I know,
9 a.m. and beyond.
But again, the good thing is these shows are still popular, Chris.
No,
I
no
don't
question.
think the talk show's going to die. I think the platform is evolving. And I think we can take lessons from Kelly Clarkson's show. I think celebrities should have shows. I also think there should be hosts that are either comics or have done hosting before at the local or regional level. Some incredible talent in this newsroom that should potentially be considered for roles such as this or shows that we produce here at Fox. So I think overall the genre is not dead, which is good because people are upset about this. The comment section that I saw, people were like, no, we love the show. She's so good. We love the format.
Yeah.
It's going to keep going because YouTube
Positive,
clips are
uplifting.
working. It is. And that's it. We need that now.
You know what talk shows are known for as well?
What are they?
Comedy.
I know.
So should we talk a little comedy coming up after the break? We've got a special guest right here in studio.
We got a special guest, a true DC comedic icon, also national icon for an incredible show that he hosts, which NBC should be taking notice of because that could be the next talk show.
NBC, how dare you?
Oh no, but we're talking about the talk show.
Don't you talk to me about NBC here at
Kelly
Fox
Clarkson's
5.
the opening.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to talk more about that. In the meantime, we're going to leave you with this live picture from Joint Base Andrews. President Trump due to arrive any minute for his overseas trip, his first of 2026. Heading to Switzerland.
Yes, sir.
We'll take a quick break. There's Marine One.
Yeah,
It looks like
here.
getting ready to land, so
Definitely
he'll be boarding any moment now. We'll take this quick 2-minute break. We'll be right back.
Coming in, we've never had anything like it. Prices are way down. Gasoline now is $1.99 in a lot of places, and frankly, nobody's seen anything like it.
All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime on this Tuesday night. You were taking a live look at Joint Base Andrews, where Marine One has just landed. President Trump getting ready to board Air Force One for his first international trip of 2026, heading to Switzerland for that international summit. We're going to keep this live picture up so we can watch along, because if it's live and it's happening now, that's what we like to do. In the meantime, though, we do have some other fun we want to get to tonight. And Tony P., I'm going to toss it over to you.
We are mixing it up tonight. Tonight, my next guest, we have the most electric comic here in the DMV. I got to tell you, that's a big title for you. You've seen him everywhere. PBS, Sirius XM. You've seen him at the DC Improv as the host of the smash hit Couples Therapy. If you haven't seen this show, you're going to laugh your butt off. It's interactive. It gets the fans involved, and it tackles the most pressing issue, my friend, and that is romance. And we have Ramin Mostafavi up here tonight at 9:30 here on Fox Live Zone Primetime. Thanks for coming on, my friend. Thanks for being here.
Appreciate it.
Now let me ask you this. So when looking at comedy generally, I asked Sam Morrell this question last week, and he took it off the rails, went a little viral.
Sure.
And I've been working with every comic I have on here. I asked him this question.
Yeah.
You've been in this business for a long time, and you've been in D.C. for a while. When you look at the D.C. world, this just sheer madness, right? What are the easy?
Which is at the Kennedy Center.
Right, exactly, right.
And has been for like 25 years.
True, exactly, right. Now, what is the
I used to be in Sheer
Right, you were right.
I did not know that.
The PBS was part of the Kennedy Center. I mentioned that at the top a little bit. Now,
Sure,
let me ask you. So, what's the easiest thing to roast DC about?
Obviously, it's political tension, I think. We live here, and we very often don't know how steeped we are in it.
Yeah.
I went to, where was I? North Carolina. And I was just in a cafe, and people were like just publicly discussing, some controversial topics that we would never get into just like sitting in a coffee shop. And they were just very loudly discussing things that I was like, oh my gosh, we would never just say that in DC. But it was interesting. I mean, I didn't mind it, but it did kind of starkly show me like, wow, we're a little uptight, I guess, or nervous in DC. So yeah, I would say the political tension.
Very student body president energy, you would say?
Yeah,
just to kind of put that one out there. Now,
but it's a great city, don't get me wrong.
Totally is. I think we get misrepresented in the media.
But what doesn't? I was born in Iran. Are you kidding me? You think Iran gets... Anyway.
And by the way, we're sending all the love to our friends out there that are kicking butt right now for the freedom over there. But
humanity all around.
Exactly. Now, let me ask you this. You cover the tension in your incredible show, Couples Therapy.
Different kind of tension.
Exactly, yes. But you get into this stuff a little bit, the nitty-gritty of relationships. Could you tell the audience who may not know this show, what is the background of it? How'd you get into it? And what is the play-by-play of how this goes down at the Improv?
So it is fun. It is unique every single time. Literally nothing is repeated because it's all off the cuff. It started because I am historically a coupling failure. That's what I like to say. I was in real couples therapy for a long time. Yeah. I've been divorced. I've been remarried. I have whatever. I've been through the gauntlet.
Exactly.
And I'm also, as you may know, unafraid on a microphone to discuss things that are either uncomfortable for for serious and emotional reasons, or uncomfortable because a lot of times, at least in this culture, and a lot of cultures, we don't discuss sex openly. Am I allowed to say sex?
Yes, you are. We're on streaming.
Very good.
No holds barred here.
So at this show, we get into it, and sometimes it is a little bit emotional. That's not the goal. Our goal is make people laugh, of course. Now, sometimes people come to the show sort of under the impression that it's real therapy because it is called couples therapy. But I
sort of felt that a few times. I'm like, this is a pretty good rabbit hole here. I'm taking some notes.
Here and there, yeah, we do a little actual stuff, but it is called Couples Therapy, a comedy show. So if you come out and you participate, or you're in the crowd and you're taking the advice from me or my guest therapists, which are also comedians, by all means, we are not certified. It is not real. We will mostly suggest that you get divorced and cheat on your spouse.
Get some help.
That's our advice.
Listen, again, that's the real help right there.
All right, so because you talk dating and relationships, earlier tonight on the 7:30, we talked about this new dating trend that I want to get your hot take on, because it's called Hot Take Dating. And basically, you on a first date, you put all of your BS out there, all of your hottest controversial opinions, so that that person can make basically a snap judgment about you, whether it's worth pursuing or not. Do you think that is a good way of going about things?
No, I think that's trash.
Or do you think you're supposed to parse it out a little bit and the person learns what a
I'm shocked by this,
garbage
actually.
human being you are
Why would
over
we
time?
lead with our worst? I mean,
Could be our
very
best.
often we're made of way more than our worst attributes.
Right.
Why would we want to put out the like, hi, first date? Sometimes when I sneeze, I poop a little bit. I'm like, who cares? I don't even know that necessarily. Or, you know, and someone who has a truly horrible attribute, they're not going to share that with you anyway.
Good point.
Something that would really very negatively affect the relationship. All the stuff that I think people would share generally are likely so shallow, so to speak, that if someone makes a judgment about you on that first date, because, I mean, what are you going to say? Like, I only do my laundry every 2 weeks. And like, what? I insist every first week. So I would say, look, dude, get to know each other. A lot of relationships, when you're couched in otherwise great things in love, you're allowed to get away with some idiosyncrasies or imperfections.
Like
Why would
buffers.
we lead with the imperfections? That's
I kind of like that. I mean, I thought it was good to kind of be vulnerable, but I see your point where it's like you could lead with the worst and it could turn someone off. I appreciate that. You don't want to do that.
Who would show up and be like, I got
point.
a 3-inch, you know, who would say, no offense, Tony.
Oh!
Sorry,
Hey,
buddy.
listen, that's fruit.
Told me not to tell.
You know, I gotta listen. There's some
The
secrets. that are
truth comes
important. You
out.
gotta
All the
keep that.
Instagram. This is
Okay.
what I'm clipping for
Well,
Instagram
listen,
later.
my comment section would eat you up.
Come on.
Not because
That's why it's Tony P with a lowercase.
they've
P,
been
isn't it?
underscore too. So again, that's kind of a little bit lower. See, I'm getting into my comic
See?
phase.
Self-deprecation.
That's
Good
part
for
of
you.
comedian. Now,
Yay.
let me.
Right.
Speaking of craft, I got to ask you about the craft a little bit here. So,
Yeah.
you've been doing this for a long time. You're also a coach and practitioner of the sport of comedy and the art form.
the sport, yeah.
Yeah, so we have to talk about a little bit about how it's a sport and an
Sometimes
art,
you throw
right?
your hamstring telling a joke.
You do. Listen, you laugh so hard. But I'll tell you this, okay? A lot of people think they can be comics now because their buddies think they're funny, okay? In the social media era, we're seeing a lot of that.
Sure.
What do you think's the difference between being a really funny person and being a great comic in your experience?
So, look, I mean, what's the difference? I mean, a lot of time invested. You know, people that are funny among their friends, we call that family room funny. And we get a lot of that where people want to try stand-up comedy because all their friends and they're the funniest one at work. And maybe there's a slight something to that, but it's usually a completely worthless thing to mention when you're coming into the realm of stand-up comedy. Because a lot of comics that are hilarious on stage are not very funny off stage, backstage. To be honest, I don't consider myself super funny when I'm hanging out with people or at a dinner table. Sometimes people expect that a comic is the one that's going to run the table. I'm not at all. I'm not saying that I'm shy, but I don't take it upon myself to be a clown, so to speak. Now, a lot of the people that come to us and ask for coaching or think they want to be comedians, it's because they are the hilarious one at the bar, or in their frat they were the funniest one, and I think that's a grain of salt. But the timing, one of the biggest differences here, and it sort of relates to what we're talking about with this dating relationship thing, you have to get to know somebody before you can make judgment one way or the other. So if you're funny in your friend group or at work, a lot of people already know your character. You've built a rapport.
Right.
So you can be funny because that's based on your whole relationship. In stand-up, you got to endear, create trust, have the timing and the material within 10 or 15 seconds in front of strangers. You know how a lot of people crush at like a wedding reception? They're the best man, the maid of honor, whatever their speech is. It's so funny, right? But if they repeated that at the DC Improv or whatever club, they'd probably bomb.
Right.
Because there's no context. So I encourage people to try it, of course. We love all the voices, but there's a learning curve, and it takes hours and hours to get to where you're even sort of funny. And I've been doing it 15 years. I'm still learning.
If you don't mind me kind of following up on that aspect a little bit and bringing in Tony P's expertise with social media, it is both such a tool to kind of get your voice out there, to kind of get your name out there. At the same time, though, once people have seen that joke on social media, are they showing up hoping to hear it again, or are they hoping for brand new things? And what is the lifespan of people's comedy routines these days when so much of what they do is out there?
Tremendous question, and it's something that we talk about a lot behind the scenes. And I have certainly hidden a lot of my jokes for live performance instead of putting them out. But at the end of the day, like, let's say if I put out a joke, and I've done a few recently at Person of Comedy on Instagram, Person of Comedy on Instagram. What am I getting? What am I getting? If you get 10,000 views, 20,000 views, 50,000 views, look at the population of the world. So a very small percent, at least for my level. There are people that are, doing a lot better than I am. Adam Ray, for example, who I work with, who's a tremendous person.
We're covering that.
He might put a joke out, and that'll reach 5 million.
Yeah.
Well, maybe at that stage you are a little more conservative about what you're sharing. So it's just you gotta kind of judge it based on where your traction is. If you want to get those hits on Instagram, sometimes you gotta just kind of cash that token in and go, all right, here's one of my best jokes, but here it is, which I did a couple of weeks ago. It's a couple of great jokes that I love to do on stage. I decided, let me just put them out. And they did well, but still only 30,000 views. So the percentage of people have seen. But there are people that show up and go, "Oh, I wish you'd done that joke about blah blah blah." And you're like, "Oh man, I didn't know you guys wanted to see that. I thought you just saw that on YouTube or whatever." So it's a balance.
Okay. And when you look at your your track in this business, which comics or which style of comedy influenced you the most to take on these type of, whether it's your stand up, or you're doing things such as these great shows that you do, the improv work? Like, where did all that inspiration come from?
Oh my gosh. Well, I guess one of the first people that taught me about Comedy Be Funny is a guy named Bobby Lorman, who's actually the director of Sheer Madness at the Kennedy Center and around the country and globe for years and years and years. One of the funniest people I've ever known. Bobby, I hope you're watching. I love you. And he really taught me a lot of the grassroots of what it is to have comedic timing and really listen to the beats, and comedy being related to music in a lot of ways. From a stand-up comedy standpoint, Dick Gregory is huge because I love the way he takes politics and can still make it funny and have serious moments with beats and pauses that don't necessarily have to always be filled with action or punchlines. Rodney Dangerfield, Don Rickles, huge.
The pit boss of warmth.
Yeah, and I'd be remiss not to say that Adam Ray, that I work with a lot and recently, hasn't taught me a whole bunch. I mean, he's a crowd work genius. I've seen him masterfully work crowds and stay sweet and stay endearing, but still manage to be playful enough. But he's never mean, and I think for me that has been great to watch and glean from his genius.
So you mentioned Adam Ray. You got a couple shows coming up this weekend. Where can people check it out?
So we're doing theater runs. I'm lucky enough to work with him a bunch. We just got done with some things in the Northeast, but
in Boston.
This coming week we were. Yep. We're going to Richmond, and then locally right here we're at the Capital One Hall in Tyson's Corner. Still a couple of tickets available, but jump on it because they're selling fast. And then we go up to New York City, and I think Albany, New York after that. So. Yeah, man, he's crushing, and I'm glad to be there with him. So grab those tickets, AdamRayComedy.com.
And also Couples Therapy. When's that next
one
coming?
Baby. So we have the Valentine's Day specials coming up.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So February 12th at the DC Improv. These tickets, they sell out every year, especially around Valentine's Day. February 12th at DC Improv. February 13th, Bright Box Theater in Winchester, and February 14th at Tally Ho in Leesburg. That's 2 shows. The first one's already sold out. Jump on it, baby. It's a lot of fun. My buddy Josh Cadern is going to be on with me.
And again, I can't wait for the show with you and Adam, because you guys, I had friends went to the Wilbur Theater.
Yeah.
You both crushed it. Now, before you go, quick little question, I was going to add one more in there. When you tour and have worked with some incredible comics, right? What is that process like, collaborating, getting your acts together so it's the perfect show? Because again, whether you're opening or whether you're closing out, that act, how it comes together matters. How do you collaborate with these artists so consistently and do so well?
That is also a great question. I mean, the chemistry in this case, Adam's the one curating the show. In this case, There are other ones where the club will book the show and they want to look at, the overall chemistry and arc of the show.
Yeah.
You got to have a great host with amazing energy. And the feature act is supposed to lift the room to kind of the next place. And then that headliner is supposed to come in and just, hit that grand slam. There can be mismatches a little bit, or there can be, just sort of a confusion, I would say, from a host standpoint. I think a lot of hosts, especially young hosts, feel that it's their job to sort of be the funniest one on the show. They're trying to be the most impressive because they're new and they want to go, I should be the feature, watch this. But it's really a mistake for the arc of the show. For me, a host position is more about transitioning the crowd from real life to comedy, getting them settled, having them hear the beats, having them understand what their cues are, when they should laugh, when they should, and really just setting the stage, so to speak, and figurative and literally, for the next guy, and doing a great job of introducing that next person. You're the liaison, in my opinion. While you're a comedian, you're still that go-between. That's not necessarily of the comic night. You're still an audience member, kinda. You're their buddy, you're their pal, who's bringing them the next great comedian.
Speaking like a true host, a practitioner, and a creative all-in-one.
Hosts
Rami
are so clutch.
Mostafavi, thank you, my friend, for coming on the show. Live Zone Primetime.
Thank you for spending
You
some
can
time
see
with
him this
us.
weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Also, Valentine's Day. Get those tickets for Couples Therapy because it is a funny show, man. You'll be laughing and also be like, oh my God, did they just really say that?
Yeah.
Are you a
My
Washington
friend.
football fan by any chance?
Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears. All right, well,
I'm sorry,
apologies for how this
You should've
weekend went
won.
down. Coming up
Should've
next,
won.
though, we are going to talk about how Burgundy and Gold fans can own a little piece of Super Bowl history. Dave Hunt from Hunt Auctions talking to us about how you can own Riggins collection. Coming up
that's
next
cool.
as we head to break, though, President Trump taking off for Switzerland. We'll be right back.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome.
All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime. Just about 12 minutes left in the show. Tony P, Super Bowl right around the corner. And this next story is for all the fans of the Burgundy and Gold. We are talking to diehard fans and maybe the ones that have some deep pockets as well, because you can now own a piece of the Diesel. We are talking about the one and only John Riggins, Redskins legend, the former running back, putting up for auction some of his personal collection of memorabilia. So for more on the items, how you can make a bid, Dave Hunt from Hunt Auctions joining us now live. Good evening. Thanks so much for being with us.
Great to be here. It's never good to follow a Bears fan after last weekend. I got to tell you, that's rough.
I know. It was kind of a brutal way to end the season.
Yeah.
LA should not be in that championship game. I'm
No,
sorry.
I know. It's kind of a
Bears
bummer.
were due for that.
Yeah, that's what makes football so fun, though, and what we're about to talk about, whether it's the different generations of players, different generations of teams. And as you guys well mentioned, if you think about the Washington teams of that era, the first name that comes to mind, obviously, and rightfully so, is John Riggins. Just an incredible, not only player, but really popular culture figure in the DC area during that time period, for sure.
And 700 items, I believe, from his personal collection going up for bid. We're taking a look at some of them right here. Can you talk to us about why he's parting with them now, and also some of the items that are actually up for auction?
Yeah, and just to make sure I got it correct, there's 700 items in the total auction that we partner with NFL Auction at the Super Bowl. This is the 19th year we've done it. Not all of those are from John's collection, but there are hundreds of things from John's collection and others, including Joe Jacoby, another great name from, of course, the Hogs offensive line of the great Washington teams of that era. And I think it's different for everybody. Every player has a different reasoning for doing it. And I think John put it so well in his press release, really eloquently, like how many years that meant to him to enjoy what the fans gave him, actually, not what he gave to them, but what they gave to him. And that those memories, the experiences he had, his teammates on and off the field, and what more appropriate way to offer them than at the Super Bowl, which was his crowning moment of his career, of course, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute with the jersey, and a portion of the proceeds going back to help NFL auction charities. So just a great way to share it on the world's biggest football stage, really appropriately for a player such as the Diesel.
Yeah, and Tony P., yeah. I mean, speaking of the Super Bowl, I mean, is that the jersey behind you?
That is it. And when I say the jersey, that is the jersey. Grass stains, you name it. It is as is
Oh
in a
my
good way.
goodness.
And when we do the authentication, of course, not that it would be in question coming right from the source, but we actually use, third-party authentication which does photo matching. So they will literally match the nuances of the shirt itself to different characteristics during the game. So you'll see a tear on the shoulder. You can go back and watch that video of him running down the sideline, and you will see that same tear. So,
wow.
All the jerseys that we've sold over the 3.5 decades we've been in this, and other companies as well, this is arguably one of the most significant football Super Bowl worn jerseys that's ever been offered publicly. So it'll be really fascinating to see who competes for it, whether it'll be a Washington fan or a Super Bowl or Hall of Fame member fan. But a heck of a jersey, that's for sure. And what a moment, what a game, that now still today is remembered as one of the greatest individual performances in Super Bowl history, for sure.
Speaking about a younger audience, right, that may not have known this era and what it meant to the game or to the Washington franchise generally, how can we talk about sports memorabilia, making that purchase? What can this purchase mean for a younger viewer that may not have been in that generation or have seen it really up close, beyond just it's a thing on my wall that I can flex about? What are some of the benefits that a fan can get if they didn't see it, and it's way beyond just the thing on the wall they can flex about?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we've seen this a lot ever since the unfortunate nature of the pandemic and what came out of that, not just from a health standpoint, but an economic standpoint, culturally, all the changes that it really, I feel, sped up in the world. And what we saw, thinking this could be a real problem for our industry, it just took off because people were sort of stuck at home. They were being nostalgic about things that made them happy, memories, whether it were baseball cards in an attic or watching John Riggins score that touchdown. So what we saw is a lot of young people get into it in collecting and sort of investing / collecting. So it's a great thing. It's a wonderful thing to see, but it's also something you have to be really careful about, as you're probably alluding to. So what we tell people is just always trust who you're dealing with. Learn as much as you can, but as much as you can learn, somebody's learned 3 times more over a longer period of time. So you have to be really careful to just sort of jump in head first and not see how deep that water is. But it's become a wonderful way for people to not only get some incredible artifacts that they might want to collect or enjoy or share or even loan to museums and institutions to display, but they've outperformed over the 30-some years I've done this. It's outperformed almost every major market. It's really stunning to see. We'll have pieces that we sold you know, 15, 20 years ago for $200,000 or $300,000, which was, you know, an enormous money back then. But now we'll be calling those clients back, and they'll be worth $3, $4, $5 million. That is not the case with every item. But what we always tell people is buy what you love and buy the best quality you can afford from the people that you can trust, and you'll never usually go wrong.
All right, so on that note, beyond the jersey, the Super Bowl jersey behind you, can you talk to me about some of the other items from Riggo's collection that are up for auction and what you expect some of the major ones to sell for?
Yeah, there's, again, we talked about the jersey, which certainly will be a six-figure piece. I think it's already approaching 60,000, and it's only been online for a few days. But there are many, many things. This is important to both us and NFL Auction, and even the players as well, that are under a few $100, $500, $300, $200, just whether it's a game football, which he certainly won many. So something as simple as this, like, would be one of the, you know, you'd be presented as a game ball, that are great pieces and a lot of fun if you're a fan, but they're not going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. That's something that's important to everybody. You know, then there's obviously more commemorative pieces, just whether it be a trophy or just an autograph piece. And then there's sort of things if you really want to raise your game, you know, no pun intended. And yes,
what?
That is the ring.
No.
That is his Super Bowl ring from the championship.
And that's also on the auction here.
It does, yeah.
Oh,
so
my
that is going
goodness.
to be a really special piece. And again, what value that will bring, it will depend on the buyers, the emotion behind it, their attachment to the player in that team. But if you think about, you know, whether it's John Riggins or Joe Jacoby or any of the great players in that team and what they mean to that city and that franchise, you know, that's where it starts and ends. So we'll see how that bidding will equate. But again, doing it at the world's biggest stage, in conjunction with NFL Auction and NFL Auction charities, we're so thrilled and honored to be involved with all the players, John and Joe Jacoby, and it'll be a really exciting event for sure.
When you look at, again, taking to my generation again, because this is kind of where we exist, whether it be with the sports gambling, renaissance, and all things social media, what do you see as the future for auctions such as this, for players that are playing now, they'll be retired in 20, 30 years? Do you see it being the same as shirts and balls and helmets, or do you see other assets taking more prominence as time goes on?
That's a great question. I mean, we've really straddled all those different worlds all the years we've done this. I mean, I remember, I guess I'm dating myself, when you would have a Ken Griffey Jr. piece, and that was a modern item.
Right.
You know, now he's removed from the game for 20, 30 years. So, you know, that demographic marches on. That's what we always talk about. And, you know, we just sold Willie Mays' collection for his estate, and we had known Willie for 20 some odd years. There's certain names like Willie or John or Joe Jacoby, any of these folks, they're going to carry on long past all of us as a legacy. Right. But from a marketability standpoint, it does change. It does, you know, ebb and flow. And while you'll have younger people that will sort of gravitate towards players that they're watching, whether it be, you know, a Jaden Daniels or a Jalen Hurts or Tom Brady, whoever it may be, what we like to do is see them sort of enter with the pieces that they are growing up watching and enjoying, and then learn about and be experienced and exposed to these earlier players and how that's the beauty of sports, right? Is that you can transcend and compare eras, and even as modern as the games get, it's interesting how you can compare back to earlier days, and a lot of the things are really exactly the same. So we've seen that a lot, and that's really cool. It's funny. You see at the conventions and the shows, and we'll be at the Super Bowl Experience for a week out in San Francisco, and you will see, you know, 15-year-olds, 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds walk up, and they won't necessarily have known who these players were, but they'll know the name a little bit. They'll say, I think my dad gave me one of those cards. And so it's about, we're really all about loving, educating that younger generation of collectors. And again, I can't stress this enough. If you go into this just trying to make money, it's not going to work out. I can promise you. We see it all the time where, unfortunately, a lot of young people are just chasing, you know, that valuable piece and not understanding what makes it valuable, not understanding what the pieces that aren't valuable, why they're not valuable. So
Dave,
it's really, again, buying what you love and educating yourself.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're down to our final minute. 2 quick follow-up questions. 1, if people want to learn more about the auction, where can they do it? And 2, has any piece ever come through your office that you have said, I need for my own personal collection, and I cannot even let anyone else stand a shot at getting this out from under me?
All right, let's do the housekeeping quick. So if you go to huntauctions.com or at NFL Auctions website, all the items are there, both John Riggins' collection, Joe Jacoby's collection, and hundreds of other items, including some things right from the NFL, including 2 Super Bowl tickets, with all the proceeds going to charity. So as far as items that come through our hands that I would love or couldn't have parted with, many of them. Babe Ruth bats,
Wow.
All kinds of things. The jersey and the helmet that Rudy Rudiger wore when he was carried off the field, the real one, not the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
At Notre Dame.
Go Irish.
I mean, and on and on and on. The problem is I had to make a decision a long time ago. It's too conflicted. We can't pluck the best things out of our own auction, of course. We don't bid in our auctions, but it's so really, really cool to be able to meet these players. And I'll leave you with one. Being able to sit across from Bill Russell and deal with him personally to sell his
Boston
collection.
favorite.
It was scary at first till he started doing that big laugh and made me feel at home. And those are the kind of things that I treasure. So it's not just the pieces, it's the memories too.
Amazing. Dave Hunt from Hunt Auctions, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the Live Zone Primetime. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
All right, Tony, we're down to the final 5 seconds. Thank you for everyone for joining us here
fun night,
tonight.
man.
Fox 5 News at 10 coming up next on Fox Local. We'll see you back here tomorrow night, same time, same place.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.